Repeat customer on the call up. I would say friend of the show now. Cooper Boardman was a guest host last year when Aram was, I think, gallivanting through Europe. And now you are getting an Aram-less show again, and Cooper is hopping in. The voice of the Worcester Red Sox. Is that fair to say now? I hear you got an
Yeah.
off-season promotion. What's the deal?
Yeah, I think you can officially say that. And how about the promotion before 2025? I'm not sure there's anything bigger in baseball than Worcester Red Sox baseball right now. I'm a company man right now,
Yeah.
so
Sweet quarter zip, by the way, for the YouTube crowd. That's
but
amazing,
yeah,
man.
we're good.
Good, man. Obviously, we're going to talk WooSox. We're going to talk Roman Anthony. I do want to talk Kristian Campbell off the top because he just made a lot of money after playing not a lot of big league games. I want to talk Marcelo Mayer a little bit. And I want to get into the Andrew Bailey pitching philosophy and how that kind of bleeds down to the affiliates because I find it fascinating. And I've heard similar sentiments echoed by a lot of other organizations. Of course, it's the call up. Arm's not here. Jack with Cooper Boardman, who was with us last year before anybody got to Worcester. And he said it's like getting to Woodstock a day early, waiting for Roman and Campbell and Meyer. And now he's at Woodstock at the right time, but also maybe a day late because the opener was really good. Let's start with Kristian Campbell here. Why was his spring enough to make him not a woo suck to open the year?
So start spring. Really bad. Really, really ugly first couple of weeks. And people had kind of anointed him as the guy who was going to be the second baseman for the Boston Red Sox. Fixed so many holes in the lineup. He's a right-handed hitter, a guy with power. He checks all of the boxes at his best that the Red Sox did not have. And he starts bad, and you're sitting here and you're like, all right, well, he played in a month and a half of AAA baseball. This is not working at the big league level. He's getting eaten alive by fastballs up and in, which is a thing that kind of reared its head late in 2024 at the AAA level when they figured out how to attack him. And you're sitting there and you're like, all right, well, this was like a nice little thought. And we'll see him at AAA, and he'll have to work his way there. And Vaughn Grissom's going to end up as the second baseman. And they hit the spring breakout game, against the Rays. All the prospects, kind of a loose atmosphere, like they were talking about, just like like literally how relaxed it was. Hits a bomb, all of a sudden, kind of starts to take off, and so that's the timeline of events here. What I would say from an internal perspective is like just being around Red Sox hitting development, being around the conversations with him when he was in AA and the timeline to get to AAA, and obviously the aggression into getting him into the big leagues is more than anything. And I know every organization says that they have people they believe in. They believe in everybody. Everybody can get to the big leagues. We have a development process that is great. The Red Sox believe in Kristian Campbell. And ultimately, him being on the opening day roster is absolutely doubling down. It is absolutely gambling on what they think he is right now,
Yeah.
but they believe so wholeheartedly in their development process about what he's going to be that I honestly don't think when it was all said and done, when all the information was there, I don't think it was that hard of a choice for them.
Interesting. Okay. You say that after spring training. Obviously, you say that after the minor league season a year ago. And you mentioned kind of the blue zone that he has. Aram has documented the swing concerns with Kristian Campbell, although they're not concerns to the point where he's not a top 50 prospect in baseball. Like, don't get it twisted. He is a top 30 prospect in baseball, top 20 prospect in baseball, but it seems like the Red Sox deem him greater than that.
Mhm.
Fastball's high and tight, surely going to be something that eats up that swing a little bit, but it seems like the correction is kind of being made right now at the major league level. The thing that jumped out on the stat sheet, what chase rate is under 20% against breaking pitches last year. He walked 14% of the time. Does he have that simple level of like computational power where he's just going to see spin and like diagnose it right away? Hey, if it's a hanger, I'm going. If it's not, I'm going to tip my cap if they land it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, and we're going to talk about Roman Anthony at some point here,
Yeah.
obviously. And what we're talking about here is very simple, which is when bat hits ball in the middle of that swing, it is consistent exit velocity. And it's not that much deeper than that. The thing that made like I think this gets a little lost because the story is like meteoric, right? Able all the way to the big leagues in like a year, in less than a year and a half,
Right.
right? And
And by
it's
the way,
really
he's not willing to acknowledge that. He was like, "Yeah, it just kind of seemed like part of the process." His mannerisms are so funny to me. Like when Cora told him he was going to the big leagues, he was like, "Okay," and then like stuck out his hand for a handshake, and he calls his teammates friends. Like everything about this guy fascinates me right now.
it's awesome. And I will just like as an aside, he's an awesome guy. Like if you met him, you would love him. Like he's just a really nice, respectful kid who I do think kind of can't believe it, but like also believes in himself and this is great. Anyway, the thing for me on him is what you got to remember about him at Georgia Tech as a hitter. I know Arms talked about this, but like he didn't swing and miss. He was this contact hitter. So the base of who he is as a hitter is a hitter, right? Like a higher average contact guy who had no power. And he shows up in the Red Sox organization and they teach him how to hit the ball in the air. And it turns out in that body and in that swing, in all of that process, he has crazy and consistent exit velocity and an innate ability to lift the baseball.
Hmm.
And so what they would say is the guy that you judged a year ago is a completely different person. And what we have unlocked from him is a high-end first round talent in a body that was not drafted that way. Whether that remains to be seen, obviously it does, but like you're talking about 9% swing and miss with a slug well into the fours, flirting with the fives in AAA last year and AA.
Got it. Okay. It really is interesting. And there are some guys that kind of experience a power surge, and obviously the Red Sox swing speed program is something that surely helped Kristian Campbell a little bit if he did go through that entire process. I know, and Aram and I have had this conversation over the last year or so. There was a long-standing belief when we were growing up in the baseball world, right? Like we both graduated college in the mid 20 or high school in the mid 2010s. Like I was a 2016, you were a 2017 high school grad. And growing up, you were always told you can't teach like in terms of pitching. You can't teach fastball velocity, you can teach command. Like you're going to try and get guys in the strike zone, but the stuff is the stuff that you're born with. And now it almost feels reversed, where there are some pitchability guys like Quinn Matthews in St. Louis, who's in Memphis right now. Like that was a guy that was throwing 88, 89 miles an hour, and then he gets into pro ball. His stuff ticks up because they knew how to, have him lift the right way and how to optimize the delivery to get him up to 94, 95. So what you're saying is like Kristian Campbell was almost that pitchability lefty that they taught like a 95 verti fastball to.
100%. And I think we're allowed at this point to say that hitters can do that too.
Hitters can
I've
do
seen
that.
it enough times where it's true. And like two things. One is I know it looks weird, right? Like I know you turn on the game and like especially early in spring trading, you got like Gary Sheffield light swinging through like fastballs up top and you're like what is this? Like this is a top 50 prospect. And I get it. What the Red Sox would say and what they have said to me, among all of his coaches and all of these people that have been around him at three different levels, now four, is yeah, it looks weird, but when he gets to his load, like he's just a hitter. He just looks like everybody else. And what Kristian would say and has said about what this process has been like is, and I tweeted this at some point, so some people might have seen this, but like right now in his life, and especially last year when he got to AAA, he hits balls in the air. They go out for home runs. And he didn't know they were home runs when he hit them. Like that's what we're dealing with here, where even internally, he doesn't like his mind doesn't know what the ceiling is. And I think that, look, I don't know how it's going to go over 162. You don't know how it's going to go over
But he knows.
162, but he knows. And I think you're allowed to be really excited based on every fact I just said.
Last thing on Campbell. Like I know it may put you in a weird spot, but letter grade on 8 for $60 million. Like it seems like they had no problem giving that to Rafaela. It seems like this is actually a better bet than Rafaela.
Yeah, two parts to that. One is I don't think you're allowed, I don't mean you, but like people are allowed to say that this is bad because those are the same people that for the last 3, 4, 5 years have been like tornadoes of negativity about the Boston Red Sox not spending money, not extending people, not et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so just shut up. Like, just enjoy something they did. They believe in this person that they helped create. It's a success story, and they paid him money because they think he's going to be good for a long time. And I've seen nothing to dispel the idea that he's not going to be.
And
So, like, I don't know, man. Like, and I get it, right? Like, it's a little weird positionally in 2025. There are a lot of things there. You got two more guys coming. Like, there are some things here that are not like copy paste. This is easy on a roster, but like, it's not that much money at the end of the day,
no,
and they think he's better than that.
no, and at the end of the day, it models out arbitration numbers pretty fairly, and there is much more of a world when you look at like the ESPN fantasy app for fantasy football, like the boom percentage and the bust percentage, like this has a better boom percentage than bust. So I'll give it five big booms.
And you got to understand, like, yeah, he deserves all of them.
Yeah.
You got to understand too, like, at this moment in the Red Sox world, and you know this, and certainly the listeners to this podcast know this because they know, but like this, the Red Sox have been saying these guys are coming, and these guys have been coming for 3 years now. Like, at a certain point, if they really made, and I know Craig Breslow's only been here for 2 years, but if we're going to keep saying that over and over again, you have to invest in that future. And they believe that they've got three anchors, and like, if they pay the other two guys this year, I wouldn't be stunned either.
Yeah. Heaviest anchor. Roman Anthony. Arm has him as the number one prospect in all of baseball ahead of Roki Sasaki. It's pretty understandable. He went yard twice in what, the second game of the AAA season. Roman looked the part in big league spring as well. Like, I watched him firsthand hit a ball about collarbone high at 114 degrees. It got out in about 2.5 seconds. Like, he put a swing on a baseball that I was absolutely floored by. You're obviously seeing him in Worcester. You saw him at the end of last year, and you were down in big league spring for 3 weeks when Roman was down in big league spring for 3 weeks. Now, granted, he was sick for a little bit. Like, he was sick, much like Devers was sick, much like Casas was sick. A lot of guys, like, there was a bug around that clubhouse in Fort Myers, but the fact that he came off of the bug and was still hitting balls 115, 116, 117, he's amazing flat out. Getting that firsthand look at him for a more elongated period of time than really anybody that listens to this show, what jumps out about Roman Anthony?
He's always Roman Anthony. He's like always doing everything you just described. And I get it. Like, that's why you're the number one prospect in baseball, because you're really good and you do all of the things you just said consistently. But like, he's actually doing it. And it's like, I've seen him now for like I guess it's probably like a 65 game, maybe 55 game stretch between everything you just said there. And it's just like Sunday, like, and we're talking about the home runs, and it was great, but like Sunday, he goes 0-2, like against I forget the major league. It's like a major league rehabbing, Mets relievers, like, 96 with a good breaking ball. It goes down 0-2, and like it's just like a slider away, and he just goes down and takes it the other way, like in singles, and you're like, great piece of hitting, and then you look down, and you're like, oh, great piece of 108, and it's like that's an 0-2 pitch that like it's a nothing at bat until it's something, and that's the thing, like his roll out of bed 106, 107, 108. Like, it's like, we talk about basketball, like guys just a bucket. Like, walks in the gym and like he just makes shots, and then he goes home. And like, I don't mean to make it that simple. Like, he doesn't have a YMCA game of a hit, but like he's sick. Like, it's always. And you couple that with the fact that he's actually a really good hitter, and the relative lack of swing and miss, the ability to get the ball in the air. The fact that he has walked. I'll be interested to see how much he walks at the big league level, but has walked a pretty decent clip at the minor league level. And it just adds up to like, oh, okay, this is a level of different that we don't see every day.
Obviously, this guy is putting in an insane amount of work, but I love the point you make about the roll out of bed score. Like, the thing that has made Kevin Durant an all-time great at the NBA level is he's a roll out of bed 30, but he's 30 every night because he puts work in to create that foundation. And Roman, like, if he's roll out of bed 106, he's put in the work to elevate that to 115 when he does get a pitch to hit. It is amazing to watch staying power in center field. Does he have that? Like, I'm trying to put together the jigsaw puzzle, and I've tried to do this on the Just Baseball show, and it seems like somebody's got to get traded. But Wilyer Abreu is awesome. Is Wilyer a platoon bat? Probably, but he's bulk end of the platoon, and then you got Rob Refsnyder, who's like Randall Grichuk 2.0. I mean, he just mashes lefties, right? Like, you got Refsnyder handling the short end of the platoon. So it's like that takes care of right. And then you go to Duran, who's either going to be in center or left. So I ask you, like, best version of the Red Sox outfield in 2025? Is it Roman in center, Duran in left, or is it Duran in center, Roman in left?
Duran in center, Roman in left.
Yeah,
Roman is I'm not, and it's not anything on Roman. It's like Jaron Duran. I mean, look at the defensive metrics last year.
pretty
Like
good.
Jaron Duran needs to play center field. Yeah, and especially at Fenway, think about right center there. Where and obviously you got to learn to play the wall or whatever. But like you can put somebody in left field. I think Anthony's a left fielder. It's less about him. It's more about the fact that William Bray was a good, like it was a Gold Glove right fielder. I mean, he's an outstanding right fielder. Durant had a great defensive year in center, and I don't think it's much deeper than that from a defensive perspective. Now, you've talked about it, like play musical chairs in the outfield between those three guys, Yoshida, Ref Snyder, Cedar Rafaela. Like something has to give in some direction. The answer is, and I know you've said this out loud on the air, the answer is going to be Cedar Rafaela is going to platoon around and like just move around the dials and hit. Um, because I think Willier is going to play every day, like at least, against right-handed. And I think the Red Sox are okay with that. Like, I think it is what it is. Like, you have Roman Anthony. Like, what are you going to do? He's unbelievable. He needs to be in the big leagues.
Yeah, it is. That's probably the way that they go about that. And it's just weird putting that contract on the bench. But again, I understand why you put that contract on the bench and then you deal with something
That
in the
much money.
offseason.
Like, yeah. I just don't think it's that much money. And I also think they signed him because of his defensive floor, and they felt like the hit could be there, Cedar Rafaela,
Yeah.
but they don't know. And we haven't seen it yet, but he's really young. But they signed it for him to fill in and play great defense no matter where he goes. And I think that if that's the way the contract works out, especially in 2025,
Yeah.
it's fine.
It's funny. It's the same way that the Brian Hayes extension was explained to me. If he doesn't hit, it's still worth it because he's a Gold Glove third baseman. And it's like, yeah, you know what? You're right. It's not Kiber Ruiz in Washington because Ruiz does need to hit a little bit, but it is like if Sadon defends, then the contract is worth it. And he's making a very low sum of money, and it's not like it's an immovable deal. If you do want to move that, I don't think that they would want to because he's going to be one of the best bench bats in baseball because he's a Gold Glove defender at multiple spots. But I don't know. It's exciting stuff. So, all right, we hit Campbell, we hit Roman. Let's get to Marcelo Mayer here. And Mayer is a guy that I think going into this year, a lot of people would say, oh, you're the clear cut three in this big three. And then he homers in spring breakout. And he looks the part in his spring training auditions. And then he homered yesterday against Jacksonville, and it was a shot from Mayer. He seems really strong. I know you've been tasked with some college basketball to open up the minor league season right now, but when you've checked in on Mayer and when you saw him in spring, what jumped out about 2025's iteration of Marcelo Mayer?
So show up at spring training. Kristian Campbell, Roman Anthony, Marcelo Mayer, right? In that order
Yeah.
on paper, like, or is the way that it was seen. The best guy in spring training among those three was Marcelo Mayer. Like, and that's not just a me take. Like, I just, you stand there on the backfields, as you know, and like all the different people around the team and whatever. And all we do is sit there and be like, holy hell, man. Like, just watching him play baseball. He had the best spring training of those three. And look, I'm saying that this is completely out of my mind and nobody else's. But I think if Marcelo Mayer had gotten to AAA last year and been healthy, remember, he did not play 1 second of AAA baseball last year because of the lumbar.
Yeah.
If he had played some AAA games in the same way that Kristian and Roman did down the stretch and then had the spring training that he did, there is, I'm not saying it's, whatever, but like there is a very good chance that he might have been the second baseman for the Boston Red Sox to
Really?
open up 2025. And look, that was never going to happen because he didn't play in AAA and they, and he's young and he's been unhealthy over the last couple of years and whatever. But like that's the level of spring training that he had. And what the last month has been, and the early parts of the AAA season have been a continuation of it, is that guy stepping back up with the spotlight on him and people saying, "Are you healthy? Are you good? Are you like, was it just kind of a flash in the pan? Were you really the number one prospect?" It has been a complete and utter announcement that he is back and that not that we need to rank them against each other, but
Yeah.
like he might be the best one.
It is really interesting. And I just think about where Story fits long term because you've got, or not Story. I think about where Meyer fits long term because you have Story for 3 more years. Like he's
So you
making
can
what?
wonder about Story too.
Yeah, I do wonder about Story. He's making 22 and a half this year. He's got a player option available. He's not taking that. So, it's 2 years left at 25 per. I just wonder what this whole roster situation looks like. And again, we ask so many questions and we have no answers. And that's like the worst radio ever because we're just presenting problems without solutions. But if Meyer is ready like this and Campbell is playing second base and they just, put their money where their mouth was here, what's the answer? Is it, oh, Campbell gets corner outfield reps? Is it Story's on the move? Is it Yoshida's traded in a salary dump and Story DHs and Meyer plays short? Like, I have no idea how this Tetris thing is going to come together.
The thing that is barreling down the Mass Pike is Masataka is Masataka Yoshida is probably not going to be on this roster. But what
And
if he showed up?
they're begging him to hit so they can move it, right?
Right, exactly. But then like what if he showed up and hit and like they're like, oh, maybe we got to keep him. I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't I can't even like entertain that mentally. No, you're absolutely right. And like Campbell's gonna have to play some outfield, I think, at some point. Um, you know, is Marcelo an everyday big league shortstop? There are some people that I trust that would say, yeah, I think he could do it. There are some people that I trust that have said, I don't really know if he sticks there.
He sticks at shortstop.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting.
Now, look, he's been a really good AAA shortstop for 5 days. Like, I am cool with that. But like, you and I know AAA, especially the speed of the level, well enough to know that like that doesn't necessarily translate. But I do think the Red Sox will give him, with all that said, every opportunity to be a big league
Of
shortstop,
course.
if you, assuming that he wants to be. But you're going to call him and Roman up, and you're going to have two more lefties on a roster that already has too many lefties. Like there are it is a fascinating like thing to wrap your head around.
Yeah.
They are going to have to do something and move someone good. Now, theoretically, you're going to get a return there, but you're going to have to move someone who is a good position player. But it's the situation they're in, and like we can talk about it any which way. Every other team in baseball would be totally fine with this problem.
Of course. Of course. What would like big league question for you here? What would
Yeah.
the Red Sox want in return for a good position player? So you have a logjam of hitters. You have a logjam of left-handed hitters. Do they want a four starter? Do they want like a mid rotation arm? Do they want a closer with a couple of years of control? Like, what's the route that you feel like they would be going if we were to see a move to free up time for the prospects?
My opinion is like I would love to see the highest end of bullpen. Like I do think the Red Sox ceiling right now, as presently constituted, is capped based on the bullpen, and that's not a shot at anybody individually. I'm
And piggybacking off of that, the 8-9 tandem right now of Chapman and Slayton is really good. But is
gross.
it great? Like, that's a great 7-8 tandem.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah.
really good 8-9 tandem. But if you can push those guys to 7-8, and
Yeah.
oh, say you grab a guy like Helsley and you get him to extend, then you line up Slayton, Chapman, Helsley, and that's game over after six.
And Garrett Whitlock, who is like the best pitcher in baseball out of the bullpen that no one is talking about right now. I just to like go watch it. But like, and then beyond that, right? Like you just think about the division and like the way the Rays line up with their depth, like the way that the Yankees, despite injury, line up with like their depth and like their ability to create these like, demons and like
And that Judge guy, yeah,
oh, who's that? No,
yeah,
but like you think about like having to face a guy like that, right? Like
for sure.
I just think the Red Sox bullpen doesn't quite line up like that right now. So that would be my hope. I think the answer though is like more pitching. Like Greg Breslow is just like look at everything he's done. Like
Yeah.
the right like to go and you and I know the Quinn Priester Nick York deal very well. Like what they did with that,
Yeah.
what they obviously the prospects they spent on Garrett Crochet. Like every choice he makes is to go get young, controllable starting pitching that he believes in and goes and develops. And I think that I would be really interested more so than anything. Like if you go trade Willie Abreu, which would be kind of sad for me because like I think he's a really good player and I would love to
Really
be able to
good.
watch him. I would love to I love being able to watch him every day.
Mhm.
But like what does he command on the way back? Like I would be very curious to see how the industry values Willie Abreu. Like what's the starting pitcher equivalent to Willie Abreu that would match up? And oh, by the way, there are teams that would want Willie Abreu.
Yeah, to be honest, this offseason, I thought the starting pitcher equivalent was Jared Jones. Like, I thought Willie Abreu for Jared Jones made a lot of sense, and I think everybody would have loved that. Now, obviously, Jones is dealing with that UCL sprain, so it's different, and there's a lot of unknown there. But, I mean, like, that tells you the caliber of player that Willie Abreu is, and with the way he started the year, it may only be looking better. A couple more for Koopy here. I've got a pitching question here.
Okay.
And you kind of took us there, the Quinn Priester conversation. And I will ask just about the WooSox rotation right now because Worcester has a rehabbing Bayo, a rehabbing Giolito. Oh, by the way, they have a healthy Priester too. Luis Guerrero's not in the Red Sox bullpen somehow. Like he throws fuel, but he's in the Worcester bullpen right now. I want to ask about Andrew Bailey and the philosophy because I reread Petriello's article last year about Andrew Bailey kind of scrapping bad four seamers again, and I'm just fascinated by the topic. And I think the Red Sox are the most high profile mover in this. I think there are a lot of organizations that are doing a similar thing where they're dropping fastball usage. Like you look around minor league baseball, I was actually just chatting with Bill Hazel, who's the pitching coordinator or the director of pitching for the Miami Marlins, and he said you look around the league, guys are throwing fewer four seam fastballs than they ever have before. He said fastballs are the pitches that get hit really hard. And Andrew Bailey, like the whole genesis behind this idea is throw crappy fastballs less because you've got all these guys that like they want to establish their fastball. Okay, if it's a bad fastball, guys are going to slug like 450 against it, and then they slug like 300 against their off-speed pitches. So throw the pitches that get burned less more, right?
What's happening in the Red Sox organization is happening other places too, right? Like what the conversation we're having is happening at all of the places that are run at the most intelligent level in baseball. But it's one thing to say that, it's a whole other thing to like be in it every single day and like be around the pitching development and be around the human beings that are in it. And like there is this individualistic level that they are giving to each guy. Like and I get the fastball thing that you just described. People talk about that a lot, right? Because it's like, okay, the Red Sox came out last year under Andrew Bailey, and in the first 2 months threw like nothing but sliders to righties to lefties in all spots, and it was like funny, like, but it worked until it didn't. I do think the league caught up a little bit on it. I think the numbers say that, and I think if you look at the Red Sox fastball usage down the stretch of the end of 2024, those numbers would seem to agree that Andrew Bailey agreed with what I just said there. But it's if you have a great fastball, we're going to use it and we're going to make it better and we're going to work on velo and we're going to do drive line and we're going to do everything that everybody says pitchers should do in 2025. And Richard Fitz is a great example of that guy
Yes.
who walked in from the Yankees organization at 93, 94, occasional 97, to a guy who has sat 96, 97 in a process when he walked in the organization. And we talked about him on opening day last year. They were like, yeah, we're going to make him throw harder. Like we can do that. And then he did. And now he's in the big leagues and he's good. And it's been awesome. And but at the same time, for the guys that don't have that or they don't deem have the innate ability to do it, and through biomechanics, you can obviously check this kind of stuff, then it's like, all right, well, if your slider is your best pitch, and again, it's not that like everybody's doing this, but like if your slider is your best pitch, we're going to do it. I think what the part that gets lost is the confidence that it brings for the guys individually, like talking to the actual human beings going through this, where it's like, you have this great pitch, throw it all the time because you're good. Like that, to me, like that confidence part of it is something that is difficult to measure, but is just as real.
Yeah, it is fascinating. In terms of tweaking guys, like, I mean, man, we had conversations with Walker Bueller, and he said he left really encouraged in his free agent, meetings with Andrew Bailey because he felt like he was going to be in the best place to optimize the arsenal now as he gets, to 30 years old. Like, what does 30-year-old Walker Bueller look like? It probably looks like a four-seamer being thrown a little bit less. But Garrett Crochet, like that guy's going to rely on 101, just buzz balls right through the heart of the zone. And, there's a reason he just signed for $170 million and he's made 33 major league starts before that. I mean, a guy like Bueller, a guy like Quinn Priester, scrapping a quote unquote bad four seamer, because both those guys were throwing in the mid 90s still. Both of them were 94, 95, but 94, 95 is major league average, by the way. Like big league average in a major league fastball in 2024 was 94.5 miles an hour, which is mind numbing, but that's where we're at in baseball. Scrapping a bad four seamer and going with a cutter, going with a sinker. What is that process? Is it just a conversation? Hey, you're the newest member of the Boston Red Sox. Stop throwing that.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes. It's biomechanics. It's this is why, this is who, this is the guy in the big leagues that you line up with that does this. Let's go do it.
So they
And
identify templates and they say be more
yes,
like that. Okay.
yeah, 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 exactly. And it works like because it's your career. You walk into the, and I'm just saying this because like anecdotally I've had this conversation where it's like you walk into the room, the pitching coach and the pitching coordinator sit you down, they walk you through biomechanics, they walk you through what you line up with at the big league level, like whoever's having success that way, they walk you through physically the way your arm moves or what you're doing or velocity or whatever the stats that are to support it, and you walk out, and I'm not saying you're going to be convinced 100%, either way. And like, I know guys push back sometimes. It's your life, it's your career, it's your family, and all of this. But the guys who have bought in that I know, like, it's worked. Like, I don't mean to be like but it's not, again, not that much deeper than that. Like, it is working. And we haven't talked about Brian Bayo yet. Like, we've been talking about this rotation, and we haven't talked about him. And I do think it's an example of dialogue where, like, if you go back to July, like, or June, really, of last year, it was like, oh, are we going to send him down? It was a long, and they gave him a week, basically. They skipped him on a start. They re-tinkered with some stuff. They brought the four seam back in the fold. And I'm not saying that's the reason why he was better down the stretch in full, but like he got to throw it every once in a while as kind of the security blanket, especially to left-handers. And it works. So like, yeah, they're scrapping four seam fastballs in a general sense for guys who don't have good ones, but that's not a wall. And I do think that that's probably something that people don't necessarily think about on an individual basis, with this team.
Got you. All right. We are losing you a little bit cellularly, but I have one final question before we wrap. Is Kyle Teal better than you thought he was? Kyle Teal had what, four homers in the opening weekend for Charlotte. This guy put together a great spring. Of course, like he was moved in the Crochet deal, and you've got Garrett Crochet. Teal is a guy that was clearly part of this Mount Rushmore of prospects. It was part of the big three before Campbell was part of the big three. Pivoting to a non-Red Sox question now because he's a White Sox, just saving the sake of the episode here to not make it entirely Red Sox. Like, what were you expecting from Teal, and what are you like
Sure.
monitoring now from Teal to say, wow, this kid's really good?
He has been really good. And like I haven't watched every pitch, obviously, but obviously I've seen like the actual swings that he's taking. And ooh, best version of Kyle Teal. It's fun. And the Red Sox thing, like you do that deal a million times. Is Kyle Teal better than maybe I thought he was? I think the answer is yes. Is Garrett Crochet even better than I thought he was? Yeah, I think the answer is probably. But I do think that like, the Red Sox traded a very good player. Do I think he was the fourth best player of the four? Yeah, I do. But the Red Sox still traded a really, really good player. And I do think like the power as a catcher at a position, again, a position where you look around baseball and there have not been a lot of guys that have hit year over year over the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years. Like you can kind of go through the short list, and obviously they're the better hitting catchers, but like I don't think that we've seen consistency offensively at that position. Kyle Teal is a guy who has the ability to be consistently good defense at that position for an extended amount of time. And look, it checked both sides boxes. It was very easy. And but I do think that there was a thing just like talking to people around the Red Sox organization. I think you guys probably have this conversation too. Where like, would you do that deal 1,000 times? Yes, I would
Yes.
do that deal 1,000 times.
Yeah. I mean, like sometimes it's funny. I was just having this conversation like, hey, maybe the Cubs regret trading Gleyber Torres, but they do that deal 1,000 times over because they won a World Series by getting Aroldis Chapman. And um, we were talking Tyrone Lorenzo as well. Like, hey, Jack Flaherty won a World Series with the LA Dodgers, but Lorenzo looks freaking awesome right now. Like, it's just funny. You could have those little pieces of regret, but at the end of the day, if it helps you accomplish your goal, whether it is short term or long term, you still just have to do it. And if Kyle Teal is great, you tip your cap, but you got a starting pitcher that you just inked to an $170 million extension, and you are not batting an eye. Cooper Boardman started to look a little bit like the moon landing footage at the end, but really appreciate you taking the time, man. Um, Again, whenever you pop on Worcester Red Sox baseball and you see Roman Anthony, chances are you're going to be hearing Cooper do the call on Nesson, which is going to be great. Really looking forward to tuning in. It is such a well-deserved little promotion within the organization that you have been so good to over the last few years. You're also doing. Are you going to do much more Red Sox pre and post? You've been doing it the last few years.
Yeah, a little bit, a little bit.
A little
I'm
bit.
needed in Jacksonville and places now, but yeah, little bit of Red Sox pre and post. We'll kind of see how it all goes here.
Love it, man. Cooper Boardman, safe flying from Indianapolis after the NIT final for Westwood One to Jacksonville for the Worcester Red Sox and the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp. That was the call up. I'm Jack. Arm back early next week. We will talk to you guys soon.